Welcome to Toot Your Own Horn Music Matters. Today I'm here with the wonderful Christopher Hills. I don't know how long I've known you, Chris, but it feels like forever in a good way.
A long time. Yes. Thank you for having me.
We go way, way back. And I'm so happy to have you tell your story about how you chose your instrument and where it's taken you.
Well, it's a long and winding road.
Let's hear it. I want to hear how did you wind up starting in music?
Well, both my parents were musicians.
Oh,
My mom was a horn player. Dad played clarinet. He was professor of clarinet at the University of Missouri. My mom, after a short professional playing career, ended up starting and running the entire public school band program in Columbia, Missouri.
wow.
And she was one of those people that started off with, you have to teach chorus, orchestra, band, the whole everything, right? And after 2 years, she went to the board and said, get me a string teacher. I'm not really qualified to teach strings. So they did, and the program just kept growing and growing.
Great role models.
Yeah, so the house was full of instruments all the time because parents would bring their instrument to her or to my dad, say, check this out. Is it worth the $300 they're asking for it? And stuff like that. And I was told, never touch these instruments. But of course, I opened the bassoon case and said, how do you put this thing together? And I put a reed on there and I figured out how to blow on it. And the first instrument I have any memory of playing was an E-flat baby baritone.
Wow.
I was about 3.
Oh my God.
There is a picture of me sitting in a chair, cheeks puffed out, blowing into this thing.
That's cute.
Uh, and then my mom gave me her horn, and she wrote all the fingerings in, and I sort of could play that. And then I started taking piano lessons, and I really wanted to play the clarinet because my dad played it. It was cool. And
Did you practicing a lot at home and was he always
yeah, I heard them practice. My mom had the horn club in the basement, and they were doing their thing, and my dad was always practicing. And I don't remember learning how to read notes on the page. I remember watching my mom write a letter to her mom in cursive writing, being astounded at how she knew how to move her hand in the pen and make all these scribbles, and I had no idea how that worked. But my dad would sit me down with some French etude full of 30-second notes, and he would just start playing, and then he would stop and says, can you point to the last note that I played? And I got it every time. I just don't remember having to learn every good boy does fine and all those things that, you teach your kids. Um,
so reading music came really easy?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I learned more when I got older and how to read a full orchestra score and that sort of thing. But I could always read the notes and follow the rhythms and stuff like that. So
So you started the clarinet and did they give you one from home or like I assume they had one or your dad had an extra or how did that work?
um, when when we started band in fourth grade or fifth grade, I can't remember. My dad always made sure I had a good quality instrument. I mean, it wasn't a top of the line professional model yet, but I always had a wooden clarinet with a decent mouthpiece and good reeds and a good ligature. And I think that was a huge advantage, obviously, because I wasn't fighting an instrument that wasn't working properly.
So did you tell me about that? So did you just fall in love with it and just keep going or?
Absolutely. No, I just, I carried the clarinet around and cradled it and walked to school with it. And it's like, I am a clarinet player. I don't care about math. I'm going to play clarinet. Um, I was,
Friends in band?
I had a lot of friends in band. Absolutely. My mom was the band director.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
And, and to make sure that she never got accused of giving me preference, like making me first chair or something like that. She started me off first chair, third clarinet. And then there was a challenge system. Every so often you could challenge somebody for a different chair. And I worked my way up and I did end up being first chair.
Hmm.
Um,
How did that make you feel that she didn't like give you any preferential treatment?
Looking back at it, it was the absolute right thing to do. Um, and it saved both of our integrities, so to speak. Uh, Another note, when it was time to select an instrument, I knew I wanted to play clarinet because I wanted to play in the band. But I also wanted to play in the orchestra. And this is how dumb I was. I'll play cello and clarinet. And then people came to me and says, there are clarinets in the orchestra too. I went, oh, cool. So I did both.
That's cool. So you went from junior high into high school, and at what point did it become, was it always a serious pursuit? Did you decide when you started you were gonna, this was your life, or how did that work?
I knew from day one that I wanted to be a musician. I didn't know the full ramifications of what would be involved in that. But I was always amazed at people going out of high school to college, still going, I'm just going to take general studies because I don't know what I want to do yet. I went, how can you not know what you want to do? It just was foreign to me. So I kept going to college and I had there were doctors who told my parents, he'll never graduate high school. He won't make it. And I went all the way through a doctoral program.
Did you know that they said that about you?
Later, I found out.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't know then. That's awful.
Yeah, I was always a bit of a nonconformist, a bit of a rebel. They were saying, get a teaching certificate, go get an education degree, something to fall back on. And I thought, no, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be principal clarinet of the Chicago Symphony. Well, reality sets in and you realize that there's one opening and there's 700 clarinet players who show up and 500 of them could do the job. So, I took a lot of auditions when I was younger and then came home and had a massive credit card debt to pay from traveling to all these places. I was runner-up twice, but that's not good enough. And so I had to find a job. I started delivering phone books back in the day when we had phone books. I worked in a Montessori school. I worked in an early childhood center, just reading books to infants and toddlers. Then I finally got a job at the American Conservatory downtown Chicago, teaching. And I taught everything: music history, theory, composition, clarinet. There were maybe 3 clarinet students. And then the school collapsed, folded, went bankrupt. And once again, back to updating the resume. And I was wondering what I would do when I saw a little tiny ad in the newspaper. Music director wanted for private schools, Chicago area. Send letter resume to P.O. Box something in New York City. And I'm thinking, what is this? Music director, do they mean a conductor? Do they mean an administrator? And who's running a program in Chicago from New York? So I thought, what the heck? I had a stack of resumes and cover letters, and I just sent it off. And this guy came and interviewed me. And I wasn't too sure it would be something I would like. And I thought, what the heck? I need a job. Let's do it. I can always quit after a year and do something else. Well, that was 40 years ago.
Oh my God.
This was the company that I've been heading up, Music on the Move Educational Services. And when I came into it, it had already been started for like 3 years before I came along. And the first thing I noticed was the people running it before me really didn't have the background in music necessary to be really good at it. The first case example was when I went to a school and there was a clarinet student who was supposed to be like really good. And I sat down with him for this first lesson. And the first thing I noticed was he had the right hand on top. And I'm going, wait a minute. No, it goes the other way. And he goes, no, this is what my teacher taught me. And I'm going, who is this person? And I thought, okay, so I obviously had to hire other music teachers as the program grew. And one of the things I looked for in candidates was, how good of a player are they? How good of a musician are they? Because I really believe that if you are active as a player, you're going to bring more better stuff, pardon the language there, to your classroom.
For sure.
And I've had a lot of fun working with the kids. That kind of surprised me. And I guess I was sort of channeling my mother a lot with that. She had a great love and compassion for young kids. And you have to treat every student as an individual. It's not like a math class where you give a quiz and, okay, you got 7 out of 10 correct because there's a right answer or a wrong answer. That's harder to judge in music. You always have that one kid that struggles, and 3 years later, they just blossom, and you go, now you're getting it. And that brings a lot of joy when you see that, when you realize what you've created, what you started.
Why is music such a young person's game? Why is music not an old person's game to learn?
I think it's like learning languages. It's hard when you're my age to decide, I'm going to learn Chinese. But if you start when you're 7, you just take it on. I teach kids right away how to tongue and slur, which is difficult, and still maintain a good quality sound, maintain embouchures and air and everything. But they don't know it's hard. So you show them how to do it, and they just start doing it.
Except that playing a wind instrument lights up more parts of your brain than anything. So I think it sort of defies, in some ways, aging because it'll help you. It'll help you
Yes.
be better,
Absolutely.
even if you're not very good at it.
Right. Well, I often thought there's room for everybody
Yeah.
in this world. There's, even if you end up having to be a lawyer or an orthodontist. I knew an orthodontist who made tons of money, and he was a terrific clarinet player.
Oh, there you go.
He said, I make money. I can afford to play, and I don't need to be paid for playing.
Yep.
I had fun with it.
Yep.
And I also learned about relationships. I'll try to say this in the right way. When I was in college, there was a girl who played flute.
Mhm.
And she was a really good flute player. And of course, in the orchestra, she sits right in front of me. And I was attracted to her.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really know how to say anything to her. I'm terrible at the dating game and all that. So, but there were passages where she would be playing something and then the clarinet slips in underneath and interplays with her. And it was like I'm doing everything I wanted to do with her,
That's awesome.
but with music.
Yeah.
And she felt it. She turned around and gave me a look. Wow, that was fun. And you just can't get that.
Right.
anywhere else. It's chamber music. It's interactions, relationships with other people. Um, you can speak through music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That continues. There's room for the so-called amateur.
Absolutely.
When you ask a question like, okay, Indiana graduates 75 flute majors per year.
Right.
What are they going to do?
Exactly.
They all come out of there thinking, I'm the world's hottest flute player. I'm going to land a job with the New York Phil or Vienna or wherever. And they're not.
But why do they not come out of school saying, I'm the greatest community organizer? I can make people love the flute all around me. Why is it that it has to be me focused? Like, I am the greatest person. I have to play at this level. Because if people were more interested in community, oh my God, would this change? This would change so much. And
It would. It would. And I don't think that's being taught. I think it comes down to those in the college world being honest with their students, saying, you have to be extremely talented. You have to have done all the hard work and discipline, and you'd also have to be lucky.
But why is that the criteria, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand. It's like you pick something that you wanted to have relationships in and with and around, and yet you're trying to become a star instead of it doesn't make sense. Like you pick something,
I agree.
it's like it's inconsistent with itself. Like you should,
It's
it's weird.
yeah, it's unrealistic.
It is. And so why is it instead of saying you might win an orchestra job, that's great. You might get a university teaching job, but how many master students wind up teaching private lessons their entire career? Like their entire career they wind up with big studios and they do a great job. So why are we not teaching for that? Why are we not teaching to figure out how can we grow communities through lessons and through organization around what is to make it be stronger where we live?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't really know why. I have tried to do that with my teaching with my students. And I've had I've had a couple of students who've gone on to Eastman, and they're playing professionally. I've had a lot of students who've gone on and become high school band directors or junior high band directors. I think the key is you have to instill that this is fun, regardless of where you stack up on the totem pole of the profession. And if kids are having fun with it, they'll stick with it. I teach with this philosophy is when that student who's now in 6th grade is my age and they're remembering their childhood, thinking about teachers they had, they might remember me. And what are they going to remember? They're not going to remember that I taught them the fingering for a G sharp. They're going to remember how they felt about themselves when they were in my class.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen in math class or anywhere else that I know of. The whole idea of STEM, which you've probably heard of that, science, technology, English, and math,
Engineering.
engineering, whatever it is,
Yes.
should be STEAM.
It should be.
Art should be in there.
That's right. And there's been a movement for that, but it never has really caught on because the arts community, in my opinion, does a very poor job of rallying and organizing because we're all individuals instead of being collaborators, instead of being, sharing that bond and saying, how can we help each other get stronger? It's the sum of one. And that's that culture of, well, you have to be the best one. You can be the only one. There's only one job open. And this is a problem because music is for everyone.
It is. You know, after 9/11, I saw a bunch of Congress people on the Capitol Hill steps singing American patriotic songs, trying to rally people together. And all I could think of was, man, do we need better music education? They couldn't carry a tune. They couldn't sing with each other in tune or anything. And when you can get a bunch of kids to do that, they will fall in love with it. and they will want to share it.
There's something- You're right. There's something about that pitch thing. When you lock into your pitch and you can sing together, there's something that opens up like the whole group.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a feeling that unless you've had that feeling, you can't describe it. Um, I, I I remember I had one student, a saxophone student, beginner, and after about 5 or 6 weeks of lessons, the father calls me up and he's just livid. What are you doing? What kind of teaching is going on here? My kid brought this saxophone home and he can only play 3 notes and he honks and he squeaks and it just sounds terrible. I let him get it off his chest and I started explaining what we were doing and everything. Well, that kid stayed in the program and he actually practiced because his dad was sitting on him. And that was like before the Christmas concert. Then we fast forward to the spring concert, and I had all the kids go home and take a song that was challenging in December for them, but was real easy now in May. And I said, teach one of your parents how to play that song on your instrument. And I had them come down and play it at the concert.
Oh my God, really?
This dad, this dad comes with his kid's saxophone around his neck, and he said, I owe you a huge apology. This is so much harder than I ever thought. I've been playing this thing for 8 weeks, and all I can do is play 3 notes and honk and squeak. And,
Wow.
people don't know what's involved. I tell parents at the concert, I say, look what your kid is doing here. They have to deal physically with the instrument, wiggle their fingers, blow, lips, tongue, air, posture, all of that stuff.
Right.
They have to read all these squigglies on the page and understand what all that stuff means. They have to listen to each other and make adjustments as it's happening live on the fly. They have to follow me and waving my stick in their face.
Right.
And they have to do all of that while all of you are looking at them.
Right.
It takes great courage and a lot of work. And isn't it so nice to see kids involved in such a healthy activity? Beats hanging out at the 7-Eleven.
Absolutely. If somebody was listening to this podcast and really inspired by what you're talking about, what would you say to them to get them to try, like that dad, to play a wind instrument right now?
Well, I tell him if he wants to come and join the class, I'll do it for no charge. That's one draw. And most of them are hesitant. Some of them say, I used to play trumpet when I was in grade school. And I said, well, do you still have the trumpet? Why don't you get it out? Come join us. Just for kicks, for a hoot, And the kids always loved that. I had a principal take lessons on trumpet one time, and the kids loved it, you know. Yeah.
It would be really cool to have kids and adults, whether they're their parents or a relative, take a lesson with them on a regular basis. Because I think it's a great equalizer.
Yes. The Suzuki method does that.
Oh, do they?
The parents have to be present during all the lessons
Oh,
so
okay.
they can understand how to guide their child at home with their practice.
Well, I mean, participate. Like,
Well, okay. I think that's great.
that would be cool, is to have more adults just participate with kids, because then they would start to understand that the language defies age,
Absolutely. It does.
which means that you could be 60 years old and be 10 again, right? In terms of this, if you want to have that experience, go for it.
I think one of the problems for adults starting an instrument is that they've heard a lot of music. They kind of have an idea of what it's supposed to sound like.
Uh-huh.
And then they try it and they go, oh man, I don't sound anything like that. And they get discouraged very easily.
Well, that's why you take private lessons with someone like you, and why you have a quality instrument so that it's easier to play, and that you allow yourself to remember, whether you have the experience or not, to discover, if you haven't, what music is about.
Yep. Yep. It's really not, it's complicated, but it's really simple. It's really easy. You know, anybody can learn how to play an instrument. You know, whether you
They were open and minded enough to try.
give it a shot and go for it. Go ahead. Don't be afraid to squeak. Don't be afraid to play a wrong note. Don't be afraid to be confused by a rhythm.
And I would bet you that somebody you know, whoever's listening to this, has a closet clarinet, flute, or saxophone because those are the three most popular instruments. Somebody in your family has one in a closet that you could dig out and you could find a repair person to adjust to see if you can make a sound and see what happens.
Yep. It's sometimes it's hard in our school system. It's often very rigid and they don't allow things like that. As you know, in my program, I've had several schools. And sometimes I'll have a school with a funky small group of instruments. Like the band once was 8 saxophones, 1 flute, and a snare drum.
Oh my God.
And what do you do with that? You know, well, you play quartets and trios, and you rewrite parts, and you make it work. I remember I had one band that was very good, but we didn't have any flute players. And in another school, I had 2 really good flute players. So I went to them and said, would you like to come? And we're doing the same music in both schools. I said, would you like to come and play on this other school concert? And they said, oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I said, you'll be listed in the program as guest artist, or trying to puff it up a little. And they were all excited. The parents were excited. I was excited. I was solving a problem. And both principals came to me and said, are you doing this behind my back? No way am I going to allow these kids to go out of school over there because I won't sacrifice their education. Yeah. And that's a battle.
Yeah.
Sacrifice their education. Can you not see the benefit and the value that they will get? We're talking about one day out of school to go over and play in a different setting with kids they don't know.
There's a whole missing career education piece to all curriculum. Like it's not, it's no wonder to me that trade schools and trade is becoming more popular because there's a practical element to learning, right? You want to learn to expand your mind and be able to learn how to think and be able to learn how to communicate with others. And there's lots of good things you learn in education, but you also need to learn how to build relationships with others that will lead to career advancement or lead to more ability to rise in a sector or something you're good at, right? And they don't really build those skills into education. I know for me, I've looked at so many resumes over my career in music, and one of the most common things have seen in resumes in the past is that students would have lots of experience at one school, they're only their university or their hometown or, but not what you're saying. Not like, oh, they went here and they did that here and they did it over here. And like not giving them the ability to grow in what they have mastered or have started to master. And I think that reflects very poorly, actually, because everybody knows you're going to get experience at whatever the school is you're at. But if you can go somewhere else or you can build on that, that shows progression. And that's important in career development.
I agree completely. We live in a capitalist world and we have turned education into a training program to become good taxpayers. And we've forgotten what a liberal arts education should be about, can be about, and how it can open your mind. And I tried to explain to my administrators in the schools I've worked in, look, we know the world is full of problems, difficult, complex, deep problems. It's going to take some incredible, creative, innovative, outside the box kind of thinking to come up with solutions for these problems. So it's great that you're teaching math and English and engineering and science. That's all terrific. But are we teaching creativity,
Right.
which is much harder to do because it's very individual, but yeah, it must be done. That's been my mission. You're an individual. You have a soul. You have a mind. You have a heart. You have compassion. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
Yes, your lips have to be like this and all that. But what's going on in here and in here?
Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're a very busy person, and I really, 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 really appreciate this. It's going to be great. This little.
This has been a pleasure for me. Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for doing this. And it'll be a few weeks. We're trying to build up a little backlog so that I'm not running hand to mouth. And so, but I'll let you know when it runs and tag you and stuff. And just thanks for telling your story. I
For inviting me.
enjoy your day, and you're in my thoughts and prayers, buddy.
Right back at you.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.